Okay, we're starting the recording. So,
Oh,
welcome everyone to a tutorial session with Toa and myself. And we're going to be creating a simple, well, who knows, we may make it more complex. It just depends. This is impromptu AI creation here. So,
yeah, and we're going to start with the .ai file because it's by far the easiest, isn't it?
yep.
And we're just going to show you just how incredibly you don't have to know anything about scripting. You don't even have to do any scripting for this, do you? You just have to put it in the build order, basically.
Yeah, you just have to have your AI editor tool up here, and you can get from the utility section of Discord or the forums, and you just have to pull it up inside the application, and the folder should look like this. They have a couple of different documents and stuff inside the folder, and the icon looks like that. And we'll go ahead and start off here. Now, Toa, I know that you start yours off a little bit different than me, but I like to include a granary and I like to include a storage pit. I know you're kind of, a little bit different in that aspect, but I kind of, do it anyways. So I go ahead and, because...
It makes sense. It's just the AI seems to auto-build them by default. I think that you have to, if you turn that off, then you should be there. I'm getting ahead of myself because we're not getting to per files yet, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
if you turn off auto build, then you have to put them in. Yeah.
So the first things first. It comes with a town center at the beginning of each new thing,
which makes sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to have an empty town if your town center.
That's if that doesn't just mean they rebuild it, but also on nomad mode. Like if they don't start with a town center, the first thing they'll do is build one, right?
Yep.
It makes sense. That's something you never really want to change. You always want to have that at the top, unless you're doing scenarios or something. But for random maps, then it will always make sense, right?
So to add a new building, you go under Edit and you hit Add, and then you click your building, and then you search for the building that you're looking for. In this instance, it's A of E1, and it's a granary instead of a mill. If you wanted a storage pit, my friends always make fun of me because I call it storage pit inside Age of Empires 2. And they're like, it's not a storage pit anymore. It's a lumber camper, one of those others. But okay. So going for a granary first, and I'm going to add in, storage pit.
And a granary is just for berries and farms, but yeah. That's it, because you don't actually have to know much about AoE1 to do this, right? But like you might need to know little basics, like that a granary is like the equivalent of a mill, for example.
So next, I usually throw in a little bit of a few villagers. Since it's 50 population, that's what we usually do. Inside vanilla, at least. We don't do 120 villages because that's quite hard to do with 50 pop, right? But also, you don't want to think, oh, well, I better get as many as I can do 50 because then you've got no military, so... Also, you don't have to do them all in the Stone Age, right? You can just do, like, some of them in the Stone Age. So I'm just putting in a random number here. It's not too complicated right there. 4 villagers.
Yeah.
Next, I'm going to maybe build another example here of maybe a barracks inside. These are totally optional. You've got your 2 Dark Age buildings here, granary and storage pit. So this is actually not needed to age up. But, it's just another example here. And maybe add in a few more villagers here. I'll throw in 4 more. Or 3 more, maybe. And then we'll go ahead and research. And research is the same thing. Except for the fact if it's a critical research. And a critical research means that an AI file, this file here that we're currently in, will not progress to the next item in the list until this item is researched. So, for instance, I'm marking this as critical, and I'm researching the tools age. So you have to find tools age inside the list. Yeah, it's not feudal age, it's tools age in AoE1. So there it is, research.
Yeah.
And then Okay, so that's done, and I marked it as a critical research. You can actually deselect it and mark it as, but that'll change this value here under the code. So
yeah.
Anyway.
But I actually think that aging up is the one thing I always do is critical, because you never want them to skip an age, right?
Right. All right.
Yeah.
So next step here is we need 2 tools age buildings, or we need more villagers, or we need to add in some clubmen or axemen. So let's go ahead and add it in here. So
we haven't got many villagers at the moment, though.
Yeah, that's true. So that's always a good thing to think about. So we'll throw in a couple more villagers
Actually,
here.
it does include. It's 4 in total, so it does. It like if on Nomad it will produce 3 villagers. On a normal start, you start with 3, so they'll only actually produce 1 villager, right, as far as I know.
So here's
you added 3 more, so that's it. So 7, yeah. So
here's
it goes
something
up to 7.
Interesting that you might have noticed. Let's say that you accidentally selected something, inaccurate, or if you want to see if your build order is going to work, you can come down here and the stats will be marked as bad versus okay. And if it's bad, it's not going to work. So you go up here and you can, invalid items and see, well, what's bad about the list? And you've got 3 bowmen, but you don't have an archery range. Well, okay, yeah, I see now. I'm an idiot. Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, I didn't mean to do that. You can to change something, you can always double click on it, and you can change the unit here to whatever you want. And I'm going to change it to villager because that's what I was aiming for to begin with. And next time, maybe a tools age building or market is probably a good idea. And this is kind of where you guys get the drift of what you really want. We'll finish this up for you though to see.
Yeah, because the AI files are so easy, right? They're like a build order. Because we pretty much already taught how to do it. It's just now you just have to refine. Oh, we should probably explain limited retrains. That is the only other thing, I guess.
Yeah. One thing that should be mentioned is, let's say that you've built like a market. You don't want to build like a farm right after your market. You want to put in, or 2 researches from the same building right after each other. So those are 2. So usually I put like.
Even though it sometimes might skip, if it doesn't decide to skip, it will basically be doing nothing until the market's built on it, and because it can't build farms until the market's built. So if you put the farms right after the market, it's like just waiting for the market to be up when you could be making villages in the meantime, which is why it's good to put like villager in between. Yeah, so that's like a tip for improving it rather than how to actually do it right. Like that's something you could find out on your own just through experimenting, but how to actually use. Like, could you explain a bit like what the limited retrains is for?
Certainly. So let's say you've got your archery range here and you want some bowmen, but you don't want, bowmen are pretty weak, so you don't want them to be retrained in future ages, or if they're killed off, you don't want them to be retrained constantly. Well, ever again, maybe. So you hit the limited retrains, and the quantity is how many you want. So let's say you want 5 villagers, 5 archers, but you only want maybe 2 to be retrained, meaning you want only 2 to come back, but that'll be it. They will never be retrained again. So that's kind of how. And if inside the AI file, it'll create an extra column over here.
You can also put that to 0, don't you? If you don't want them to retrain them at all that way.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So far, I pretty much just use I just use. If I use limited retrains, I just do it 0 usually. That's what I do, in my experience so far, is I kind of either never retrain or I retrain every time, and it just depends. But you can do it in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. So another example would be we've got our barracks up, so we can have a separate line for clubmen, axemen. We want,
Mm-hmm.
3 clubmen, but we want 0 retrain. So that's kind of how
Yeah.
they won't be retrained after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got 1 archery range, we've got 1 market, so we can go ahead and go up into the Bronze Age now. So we're going to mark it as a critical research because that's just how, and our status is still okay, so we know that we're good. So we're going to add in a couple more villagers maybe here, maybe 2 villagers, and maybe 1 farm just to change things up here. I don't know. And well, from here it's pretty self-explanatory. You choose whatever you want.
I think one other thing will be to show how there's an option to choose what civ you want and whether you want it to be AoE or RR, for example. You could say, what if you don't know the secretary? You don't know what your civ has access to. Well, if you select a civ and your civ doesn't have it, then it will say bad, won't it? Like if you put.
I know that. I know that I usually just do things by eye, but I know that the option exists.
So it is helpful to people who might want to use it. Like say you want what if you don't know the game too well, but you're interested in learning, then then you might say, well, I want to play Egyptians, but I haven't got time to check the check tree and find out what they have. So if you choose it as Egyptian, and then you try and put in like the broad swordsman research, for example, because Egyptians don't have broad swordsman, then it will say bad. So you're like, oh, okay, so I can't do that. So that's it. So it might not be you, but it might help some people man it.
Here's we'll add in stone throwers and research. Try to research catapult with it because they don't have
that either. Yeah,
they don't have catapult. So we'll show you an example here in a second. So got a siege workshop. We'll add in a government center or an academy. And let's just do a government. Well, a temple maybe even. So we'll do that. Research, critical, and we'll do Iron Age. And then we'll try to research in
catapult. Yeah.
Catapult. Yeah. Let's try to find catapult here. The list is probably the most confusing part of it. Trying to find the item that you're looking for.
I actually think that the one way this could be improved, if I could think of anything, is if they did it in alphabetical order or just clear section. Also, if you could just hit a key, like if you could hit M and it would take you to all the M's, but because they all begin with R, that doesn't work either.
So you see the stats is bad because I'm saying that's bad, but you can't. You know that you've done everything accurately. You have your siege workshop.
Yeah.
You've got your stone thrower. But
if you remove the archer range, for example, then let's say you choose it back to all text. Another way to check is if it's the civ is if you put it back to all full tech tree now and it goes away, then you know it was the civ, right? That was causing the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's
So there
okay.
you go. That was it. But now try removing the archery range, like.
Oh, I'll cut it and I'll paste it back. So there we go.
So now it says bad because you need an archery range to build a siege workshop. Right?
And it throws off all these other.
It's on full tech tree. So yeah, it's caused lots of problems because you can't make bowmen either now. So yeah. But that's a way of explaining it, isn't it? Is whether it's the civ. Is it the civ that's the problem or is it something else? Well, if you go to full tech tree, then you know that the problems are not about the civ. But if the error comes when you choose the civ, then you know it's a civ. You can also choose whether you want it to be for the original Age of Empires or for Rise of Rome. Do you actually know what? I don't know what both does, because to me, isn't both the same? Because Rise of Rome has both anyway, doesn't it? So
I don't know.
It would have to be if there's anything they removed. I guess if they removed anything in AOE, but I don't know if they did. But maybe they did just a few. Yeah, I guess it'd have to be if they removed something in RR.
Couple of changes, but I can't remember what things were removed inside.
Yeah, but the important ones are AOE or you can choose whether you want it to be for AOE or RR. RR will probably work on AOE, but one thing you shouldn't do is put a critical research for something on Rise of Rome and then try and then put it in the vanilla, because it will it won't skip it, but it doesn't have it, right? So what I tend to do is if I'm doing, I script for Rise of Rome often, and then if I want it to be for AOE as well, vanilla as well, then I just make sure all the new researches are not critical, so they're able to skip it in AOE vanilla, right? But hang on, this doesn't. That might not make sense. I'm not sure how they react. It's possible it could be uncritical. If it doesn't exist, they might skip it anyway. But I do sometimes worry about them getting stuck on a technology that doesn't exist in the original, right?
Yeah. So you have to be mindful of all those things that Toa kind of brought up there. And
yeah, sorry, I'm kind of going off on one.
So here's the last thing. So you've got priests, and you want to start researching all the upgrades for it. Like I said, you might want to put something between these researches when you research it, and that's the only thing. I don't know.
It's just, think of it as it's so your AI can, if you imagine that any time the AI is moving on to the next item, I mean, it will skip sometimes, but it doesn't sometimes. So imagine that while the AI is going on to the next item, it's just waiting. It's not doing anything. So try to put stuff in between. So you think, okay, while they're waiting for the resources for that, then they'll do this kind of thing. Unless it's critical, right?
If it's the last item in your list, it may be fine to do it, because it's just the last thing, and you're just getting all the upgrades at this point. But anywhere else,
I often put all the least important stuff at the end of the list, and then I don't bother with, like, I put all the researches that aren't that important to my server at the very end of the list, and if I want, I put one there. And then when I'm doing that at the very end of the file, I don't really bother with putting things in between then, because I'm just doing the unimportant stuff then anyway, and I've already got like full villages and full RP. So it's definitely, I'd say earlier on in the game, it's definitely more important to put stuff in between, right? Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to just add in.
But you could actually open up that document that explains those rules, the original AI document, and they explain there's about 7 steps for the device. Just in case we haven't explained it too well, then you could give Ensemble Studios a chance to explain it to the viewers as well, just to make sure everyone understands, right?
That's another important resource or whatnot for everyone to review. So I'm just finishing up. So this is kind of more complete here, and then.
And this file's not meant to be strong, right? We're just trying to show how it works, right? I mean, it doesn't make that many villages. But we could always improve it later, right? This is just to show people how it works. We should probably get into a game and show people that it does work, right?
Yeah. We'll do that. So I'm just going to name this tutorial AI, and we'll share this on the Discord channel, and for anyone else who wants to maybe improve upon it because they want to. So, okay, so I'm considering this.
I think that we should probably we could zip it up. We should put, I think, because there's no way of putting. I guess we could go into the actual A file, but I think we don't want to re-say whether everything was in there. We could put a link in there to the YouTube video explaining this, for example, couldn't we?
We can do that.
There's actually a way to do that. Show them about the header thing, because there's actually a way to do that from here, isn't there? You can go into options and
I can't
and header
and comments.
That's it. So you have to make sure you do // because / means the AI won't read it. It's a comment. If you know AOE2 scripting, that's the equivalent of a semicolon, isn't it? in AO2. Yeah.
Visit.
And then here we could put like the link to this video, which we can't do yet because it doesn't exist yet. We haven't finished, but yeah. So yeah.
And I don't know where they include that comment. I don't really deal with the comments in here. You can also feel free to look at it in Notepad++ or whatever tool.
Yeah, because it does always put them at the top, so it's like a header. But yeah.
So this is kind of what a per file looks like, and I'm seeing if I have any AI files open for other individuals.
Do you think we should do a different tutorial video for each thing for AI bones, or shall we all do it in one?
I think we can include it here. It won't take that long.
All right.
I mean, it'll take a little bit, but so this is what it looks like in Notepad++ or whatever tool that you use.
Yeah, the AI file. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at per files. So this is the part 2 portion here. And then we may briefly touch on the CTY files. So per files, the folder looks like this. And the tool is called per edit. And I've got 2 examples here for viewers to kind of, look at. And when you first pull it up, it's blank, of course, but don't fear, because you can always add, and I generally always add to the end.
Me too, yeah.
I go through the list here, and I might go one by one, and
that's what I do. I sometimes do even the ones I'm not using, just so I can change them. Can always change them more easily later. Then, so I just put them. That's what I do. Is I put every single one in, and then but then I often comment out the ones that I don't like. Right.
Yeah. So
that's another thing you can do is if you're not sure, debugging. Right. I don't know whether we'll go into that. When you're not sure what's causing an issue, you try commenting things out and seeing if it changes.
And if you ever have questions regarding any of these things about, what's a good, number or whatever, you can always go into, the files that and look at examples. What did Mr. E.
And we're by no means experts because AOE1 AIs are very unexplored, aren't we? Which is one reason we're so excited about more people getting into them. Is because the kind of skill ceiling for AOE1 AIs is much lower than AOE2 because not as many people have done it yet, right? It's just the fact that they're less complicated and powerful, obviously, but it's also the fact that it's not. There's only ever been like one AI tournament for AOE1, hasn't there?
Right. There's only been one tournament, and
hours that we're doing at the moment. Yeah.
So, and you can always come into our files. I mean, feel free to look at the numbers that I have and, see, or you can just go inside, the default per and, look around, see what they have, see what's, what they kind of have.
You should probably point out that this is the DE default per, because the original default per, there will be a blank file, right?
Right, the default per for, so another good per to look at would be, you can look at any. Let's go.
Aggressive. Let's say you don't have like in DE the default per works, by the way, but in the original the reason why it's blank is because it's like hard coded. If you don't put, you can actually technically get your AI working without a per file. You could use the default. You could even use a blank file because what it will do is if it can't find any SNs, it will just revert to the default, won't it?
It'll revert to whatever the default version is, which is unexplored at the moment because we don't have access to the default per.
Because because the default we were looking at, there was the prototype one, which was like a beta version, and then this one is the one from DE, but the actual AOE1 vanilla and Rise of Rome, it doesn't seem to be any way to have access to that yet. But I think they're quite similar to the prototype one.
Yeah, we're still exploring that.
It's the other legacy. Yeah, it's something like the other legacy ones, like super aggressive. They all work fine, but they don't use that many SNs, right? They kind of. I think there's more in the DE ones, but.
And this may be all that you need, Roy. I mean, You don't need
That's
to.
probably why they didn't explore it much, because they kept most of it default anyway, right? So
Yeah, so this
yeah,
may be fine for you. You just have to go in,
yeah.
see.
The AI file's more important for sure, because the per file
Mhm.
you need an AI file, but you don't need a city file or a per file. But they are nice to have because they give you more customizability, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
go ahead and choose, what, just an example to look at. Go through here and then go inside the per tool and start adding line by line here.
And you might know what some
And
of these mean. Now, SN, of course, it stands for strategic number. So
mhm.
now the other stuff is if you're not sure what it does, it will say you can think, oh, hang on, what's that do? You can look; it will tell you inside the per editor, won't it, what they do?
So I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
I'm just for this time and this time only. I'm going to just
Mhm.
go through here and we'll go. We'll start
Like
adding.
SN zero priority distance example. Until you actually look what that is, I don't know about you, but I had no idea what that was until I actually looked the zero priority distance. So so you might want to look at, you might want to, like, some of them are self-explanatory. Minimum explorers, it's the minimum number of explorers. That if you put zero, it means the AI will go down to zero explorers if it doesn't think it needs explorers. But it was one, then they'll always have at least one explorer with their
Mhm.
villagers. Or you could put it higher, but I wouldn't. Although I wouldn't recommend them always having more than all game more than one, because they'd have less. But you can change that how you want. But yeah, like there are some that don't really. If you read them, it's like, what does that mean? But you can look in here and
Yeah.
it will tell you. So that's definitely helpful, right? If you don't know what if something does, you can check in here. Also, I think we should probably show them the original Ensemble Studio strategy in per documents, right? Because they explain it in there as well. We should probably put that in utilities. Actually, actually.
So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and just add a couple in here first, just to show, uh, just show us doing it here, and then we'll open it up so people can see it, and then we might include it inside the utilities section of the Discord, and include it maybe inside the zip as well. So
Yeah, so I'm talking so much. That's what I do. Yeah.
So we're just going to go in here and each one of these and just create a very simple, very simple, part here, just to show you how it works. And it's really not that tough to do. You can always, how many tiles. Now, Age of Empires 1 is divided into tiles, so you kind of have to think about that inside your mind, the back of your mind. How many tiles? It might be
I think of it like one house is one tile in every one, isn't it?
Yeah. So
that's how I tend to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like one pixel or anything. It's one tile.
Yeah.
So think of it
Yeah.
like a wall, or one wall tile. Not even like a full wall.
Yeah.
It's one wall tile.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So and we're just gonna group here.
Yeah. So if you put that too low, like if you put that, I found your villagers. They stand around if the straggler trees could be too far at the start of the game if you put that at the minimum, right? So, but if you do it too high, then they'll walk across the entire map forward, won't they? So you want to kind of, a lot of these things you don't want them too low. You've got to find the sweet spot, haven't you? You put it too low, it's too far one way. You put it too high. But obviously, for things like custom scenarios, you can do all sorts of things. You can do things that aren't necessarily to make your AI stronger, but just to make it more interesting, or to work for the scenario. But yeah, if you want your AI to be stronger, it's often about finding the sweet spot. And then there are also some SNs that aren't that good, and then there are some that are really useful, right? Just like everything else. Yeah. Now that's an example that I got confused by. Like, what does it mean, the SM% health to treat? That meant the opposite to what I thought. I used to think that, if you put 100 in, it means that, sorry, if you put like, I don't know, 99 in, it means that it will retreat when it has 99 health. But it actually means the opposite. It means like it won't retreat until it's lost 99% of its health. So that's the sort of thing you have to look up, isn't it?
Yeah, you just have to be. You have to completely understand what these mean before you just include them in here. So this means that.
Well, that's why it's helpful to go one by one down them, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from this point on, I mean, you can kind of mess around with this on your own. I mean, they're all
Should we save them a headache and let them know that the gathering percentage one doesn't seem to work? For example, there's like a
yeah. So some SNs don't really work. So like,
I think it's because they didn't have time to change it. Like when they were rushing to release the game, they probably didn't have time to put that in. Like,
so a couple of them are food, gold, stone, and wood are good examples of SNs that don't work. So they will revert to whatever the.
They'll just get the results. They'll go from what I've seen. They look at your AI file and they decide based on the AI file, like, okay, do I need this? Do I need that? Now, one thing I find does help is the look ahead one does help a lot.
That's what I was about to get into. The most needed resource look ahead is probably one of the most important. One of the most important. I'm not saying it is the most, but you can select how many steps ahead. So you can just say, look 2 buildings ahead, prepare for in that many steps what resources are needed, so you can start collecting. So you might be able, to even select 3 steps ahead, like that.
Because if you put that too high, they'll be more likely to gather early gold and stone, because they'll be like looking into the Tool Age and Bronze Age in Stone Age, which is why they'll be getting gold and stone, right? But if you put that too high, but if you put that too low, like if you put it at 1, I think the problem is they switch around too much. Like they go all on wood and then all on food and then all on. So yeah, again, you want it quite low, but you don't want it to be 1. Maybe you want it to be
2 or 3 would probably be best.
Yeah. I've noticed that the DEAI has it on 8, and then it has on 5, but they're still not at like 10 or 20 or 30, 40, 50. That's definitely all way too high, right? Do you know if the build plan gather? I haven't noticed that. Does that do anything? The build plan gather percentage one? Because I think that's probably connected to the. I assume that's connected to the most needed resource look ahead, but.
I haven't really seen this one at work. The maximum.
I've used it, but I've not noticed it do much. But that might do something. But I know that the gathering percentages one doesn't seem to work. But other than that, most SNs seem to work. Yeah.
Now, I mean,
I think the military SNs are also very important, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that this is obviously too high for this. So it's percentage wise. So yeah, it's fine. So okay, so I think that this would work on 50% wood, 50% food in theory, but technically when I begin a game, they either go exploring or they go wood chopping at the very beginning. So they have to find that berry bush first. So it's almost 100% wood at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, they often like to use, even when you tell them to build grannies first, they like to build storage pits, don't they?
They want to build their storage pit and their mill. Yeah, the storage pit almost always goes up first.
Important is to change make sure that the maximum storage pits and maximum granaries aren't too high, right? Especially the storage pit one, because there's not that many berries usually. But because you don't want your AI to build them all over the map, but you also don't want to build one and then long distance mine everything else, right?
So let me see. There is one other that I thought I would.
I think it's in town. The one I just
I was going to required first building. This is the one that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Even if you set this as granary first, it might not even do it. So
I think it tries to build a granary first, but if it can't find the berries, then it will just build a storage pit, right?
Yeah. So again, this is kind of just a brief synopsis on how everything works. You can go into the attack.
Now the attack and defend and explore rules are very important ones, aren't they? They're what give your AI personality and how aggressive or defensive they are, and whether they explore much than that. Those are the most important ones.
And this is another one that you may want to review. A good example of what is aggressive, what is not aggressive, what is kind of defensive or whatever.
Yeah, because you can look at the default aggressive personalities and the defensive ones and stuff like that, can't you, to see what they've changed differently? Yeah.
So you can separate it. I'm just separating this by separation time. 5 minutes.
Do you know?
Here.
I assume that's in seconds, probably, isn't it?
Yeah, this is yes. That's what I've always
It
thought. That
actually say, but some of them, yeah, because obviously, yeah. So I think like 120 would be 2 minutes, for example.
120 would be 2 minutes, and 300 would be. But you can always check over here. Attack separation time. So they
don't want any separation. The AI will be quite aggressive, and right.
This one will do it whenever they reach the population. In theory, I think. So in theory that
doesn't always do what it's supposed to. It's because the AI is kind of designed to be dynamic. So if it's struggling to do something, it will do something else, right? It doesn't get. But in a way, that's kind of good, because if it only tried to do exactly what you told it to, then it would. When it couldn't, it would get stuck, right? So don't worry too much if it's not always like if you say that the AI is supposed to attack with either between 3 and 10 units, but it waits till it has 11 units. Like, it doesn't mean that the per file doesn't work. It's just because the AI doesn't always do exactly. But there's a randomness factor, for example, that you might have to turn off. Sometimes it's that there's an SN. This is why I often have to like to add SNs and turn that I'm not even using, because they're if you don't include them, then they're set to their default values. So you might think, well, why is it not attacking with the amount of set? It might be because the randomness factors is affecting it, and because you've not specified it, it's at the default, which, for example, yeah.
So
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So but like we said, if you ever have questions regarding any of that, you can always reference one of those other files here, and they are there.
It's more complicated than it is. Yeah.
So here's retask gather amount. I don't know if this has ever worked for me, but you can try it. So I'm going to end this here for this part of the training, I think, and we'll go on to the last part.
Should we do the save file in another video, you mean?
Well, I think we should show that in our last part here. Let's take
you mean move on to the next?
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth showing them the Ensemble Studios AI and per documents, though, because they don't have one on the city files?
Are you talking about the vanilla one, or the the default is not inside vanilla, but
right, yeah. I meant the ones that are the docs, like personality doc and
yeah. Let me pull it up here. So I'm going to say
and the other one, strategy. I mean vanilla, because I think there's only vanilla for the per one, for example. Yeah.
So this is an example of the per file, and they give a couple more instructions in here about what you want to do. This is what comes with the file with
the per edit. Yeah.
With the per edit. Now there is a prototype that has a few more. This is the prototype one, and
right.
It does show.
Oh, do you have the official release one?
I think this was the official. Let me see per list.
I mean, one for the one on the CD.
Here's the.
I mean the personality one on the CD, right?
I don't know if I have that one. Let me see. Okay, here's the per list strategy list. That's.
Yeah, but it's basically this, but not the prototype, is all I mean.
Yeah. I just pulled it up. This is it, I think. This per.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same. It's kind of explanation, but it's like in there's the AI file one of this one. They give those tips about staggering things as well, like about not doing farms right after a market, things like that. So that might be helpful to look at. But this also gives you a good list of the SNs, and some of them are exactly the same as the description, because they've just, per edit, they just took them from here. But some of them, they actually have slightly more here, probably because they couldn't fit it in the per edit paragraph or whatever. So
Okay.
it's definitely worth having a look at.
So
But yeah,
here's.
I find the strategy one quite good as well. Yeah.
Are you ready to start talking about this last part, this city file?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is a newer tool. Well, it was newer than the others, made in 2004. But
Mm-hmm.
um, this is what it looks like when you first pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, um, you select the building on the left, and you just start placing basically and you have to
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind, each one of these is one tile, so you're going to start, placing it around here. So I've got a couple of houses, and this is probably the last file that I would make if I was working on an
Mm-hmm.
AI. So I've got a couple of
Mm-hmm.
houses. I
I
want.
often find it's helpful to have after you made your AI file, have it open on the side and because you want your
Mhm.
AI file and your city file to work together, basically, don't you? You want it to copy your build order in the city file, for example.
Yeah.
So I
So
find that helpful.
I'm just
Yeah.
I'm putting some storage pits over. You want to have plenty of storage pits wherever you go, but the reason why I put multiple mills up is I want, in case I cannot build a mill someplace else in one of these other areas, I want one mill to be built at least, so it doesn't. If the AI doesn't sees that you don't have a mill, it won't. Let me rephrase. So if you do not have a mill selected inside inside this file, if you do not place it down here and it's in your build order, it will not skip it, and you'll become stuck. So um, there is that potential of the AI not progressing because you have it inside the AI file, but you don't have it inside this city file,
Yeah.
or it
Like,
can't be built.
yeah. The
So,
city files and AI files actually they work together, don't they? Which is
mhm.
why I recommend having them both open up. Well, like if you do the AI file first, then have it open while you do your city file, so you can reference them, make sure that you have them in both. If you do the city file first, then when you're doing the AI file, then have your city file open. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
They work well together. Now you may think, well, if they work well together, then how come I cannot make a city file and it doesn't even and you choose it on none on the editor and it still works? And the reason why is because if you have the default city file on none, it actually puts it as default anyway. So it's still, even when you tell it it's not using a city file, it needs to use a city file even if you don't specify it. It's a bit the same, like a blank AI file is the same as the default a blank per file is the same as the default per file. So your AI does need both a city file and an AI file. It's just that if you don't specify one, it will use the default one. Yeah, so it's really important that they work. If you do make a city file, it's really important that they work well together with the AI file, or it works well with the AI file, right?
yeah.
Yep.
So you can actually go through here and actually delete or tell which building is which by going under delete here, and it'll select which one it is and which building you want to delete. And you can also tell which
Mm-hmm.
one of these blocks is which based off this. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm just placing some farms, next to my mills here because, of obvious reasons. I want mills to be, my farms to be next to my mills if, um, so there's always that. And feel free to change all this stuff. I'm just, so archery range here. I'm going to just build it slightly farther away. Um, it doesn't have to be really close. Oh, I think I may have forgotten my barracks. You can always check the list to see if you've forgotten something.
Mm-hmm. That's it. So, like, if you don't have it in the city file, then they won't build it, right?
So yeah, you want to make sure.
Yeah, I think even for isn't it true that even if you don't have at least one item in a city file, then even if you want it to auto build them, it still won't. Maybe I think from what I understood is you need to have like at least one, and like you have to have one storage pit and one granny in there for it to even auto build them.
Yeah,
I think auto building only works for like it to turn it on. You almost have to have it in the city file somewhere. Like yeah.
I always try to have it in more than one place, just in case it's cut up in the trees somewhere.
Yeah.
So there is that possibility.
They will always yeah, because the AI will automatically build them close to resources, right? But if it can't, then it can choose one in the city file. But if it hasn't got one in the city file, then it will get stuck, right? Yeah.
Okay. So we didn't build any walls or watchtowers here. We need our siege workshop. So I'm going to go ahead and place it, just farther away. I'm not really aiming for anything here. And I think that
there's a way to, if the grid isn't pleasant in your eyes, you can turn the grid off as well, can't you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can also do that. That's no problem. It just I just do it for myself here. So
I'll use a bit of both.
and I think and as a last resort, in case you can always have an any type. And what does that mean? This means is you can build. This space can be used for anything. So I'm just going to be,
Because then what I think, if I'm correct, I think what the AI what they try to do is they try to find the specific building place first, and if they can't, then they'll use an any type. Is that right? Do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. So it's kind of like a protection, just in case you forgot something on the build order list. So
yeah, or it's also if they've got if like there's nowhere they like. Let's say you only put one barracks in, but there's a forest there, and you can't build it there. Then the AI will use an any type place instead. At least it won't just skip the barracks and be stuck in the Stone Age, right?
So I think we got
the disabled place is probably not important if I'm correct. That one will mean that you won't build something there. That because that will include things like storage pits or any of the auto build stuff won't be built there either. Like so, you can say I don't want anything there. That's more for scenarios, I think, where you're designing a scenario. It's not about the AI being stronger. That it's just like okay, I want this city to look pretty. I don't want them to build something there. So, but it's for like competitive AIs and around the map. That one's probably. I don't think that's important. I've never used that. I don't know about you. The disabled place
I haven't ever used it. I'm including it in here just so viewers can see.
Yeah, we're just trying to just explain that what it is, and it's not that important. That means that your AI won't build there, right?
Yeah, and one other thing for walls, they are the same size as this. So if you start building walls, don't confuse your disabled place with your walls. So
yes, yeah.
And I think that's it for this tutorial. Toa, do you have anything else?
Let's show off our AI work doing its build order.
Okay.
Should we put the AOE speed tool in utilities as well?
Yeah. That's a great point. Let me.
It's great for AI testing, isn't it? Yeah.
Let me grab these files that we just made, and then we'll. If I can find them. Let me see here.
Try searching by date.
Okay, I have it. Oh, wrong order. Usually I have things at the bottom. Okay, so. And these files inside vanilla, at least, go inside your data folder.
Yeah, and inside Router Roam, they go in the data 2 folder. Yeah, in DAU, they all have separate folders, right? There's one for AI, one for Per, and one for
they look like
City.
You have to separate them like this.
Yeah.
And that might be the better way. Instead
it might be, but I find it the least quick way. Because I can't just drop them all in one place. But it's better organization, though. But yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and try things out here. And I'm using vanilla. I know that.
Did you paste them in there?
Yeah, I pasted them inside my vanilla folder for here. So
Okay. Yeah. And what speed are you going to test on?
We'll go. We have to set up a scenario first, but I have to plug in my.
But you can't turn it on until it's best to set the speed before you turn it on, isn't it? Because it won't work when you finish.
I was waiting because I have the CD with me and had to actually plug in my CD. So.
All right. God. Yeah.
And I know 40 is our competitive speed, but for our testing purposes, we just want to see how our AI is doing. So we'll go up to 200.
So it's like 200 is 20 times speed. 10 is 1.0, which is slow speed. It's basically you just times it by 10, and that's the speed it is.
Well, I actually want to turn up my volume so I can hear you, Toa. So,
okay.
Let me turn down. Open volume mixer. Okay. So let's test out our AI.
Yep.
We'll edit a scenario.
Yeah, because then we have to do it from scratch.
Competition. Let's see how our very competitive AI will do. Very competitive. This is the most competitive ever.
I sense sarcasm. We're going to have it against a powerful AI or a weak AI or in between there.
I don't know who it's
prototype? Let's test it against default prototype.
Oh.
You might have a chance then, maybe. Alright, I do what you want.
Let's just... so there we go. And then
the personality is called training, is it? I thought it was called tutorial. Is that a different one?
Tutorial. I accidentally named it. I should name it the same thing, but I named it slightly different.
Alright, so I was worried it was the wrong one, but that's okay then, as long as it's the right one.
Yep, it's the right one. So.
Okay. What do you want to test it against then?
Well, we kind of made this for Egyptian. So first, well, I guess it really doesn't make a difference. It's not really Egyptian, but awesome tutorial AI versus.
So you don't want the AI to be too strong because it'll kill our AI. Watch it do its whole thing,
Well.
Have you try my Babylon one because that one doesn't make any military until Iron Age. It might have a chance then.
I don't know if I've got your Babylon on.
It begins with L. It's Legion Stronghold. It's called
Legion Stronghold. I don't know if I got that one on here. Yeah.
Well, you could download it on the forums, or I could send it you.
Let's just test it via your big fish, small pond.
Data. All right then.
And we'll go with my Noan. So, yeah, that's weird.
Does it have a city father? I can't remember if I have a city father. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't think. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go ahead.
This one isn't too strong, so it should have a chance, maybe. But it's stronger than my other one, I think. But
so we'll go ahead and test this awesome AI out. It's just awesome. So let's see here.
You're being sarcastic. It's good for tutorial purposes. We don't want it to die too hard,
Okay, so everything looks good. Let's here. Okay.
We spent hours and days and weeks and months and years on this one, didn't we?
Yeah, this one was. So let's see what they're doing. So big fish, small pond is going over there. We got awesome tutorial AI. He's got his barracks and his camp up, his storage pit. Really going for it. And while we're checking everything out, we can see, we can go under economy and see our villager count.
I think he only makes 7 in the first stage, I think, so he's doing everything right.
Oh, he's already up into full age. It's going pretty fast here. Big fish, small pond is up into building more houses over there, just going for it.
Have you tested big fish much before? Yeah.
No, this is the first time, actually.
Oh, wow. Oh, huh. Interesting. Yeah, he's not that strong, the beta one.
building the farms over here. Big fish, small pond is. Whoa! What are they doing over there? It's best not to think about it. Okay. Oh.
So you need to alter the town size, maybe.
Some people were killed over here. I don't know what happened there, but some people definitely died.
I think that. Oh, Bronze Age. Awesome tutorial AI attacked with clovers, and then my AI defended itself. But no, it's my big fish has got. But no, that's right. The reason why this beat is building so far out is it's got like a town size of like 144 or something. so that's why.
It looks like the game might be over, but we'll watch it all the way through. Just
to show it works for that.
Good job, everyone, for making an awesome tutorial AI.
You can already beat my beta AI. But I do got better AIs, don't worry.
So don't.
One of my AIs is doing quite well in the tournament at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, don't think that you're just because you're using awesome tutorial AI that you're on top of the world. You have to beat. You have to beat Toa's other AI. So,
yeah.
There are many competitors out there. And it looks like that's going, but let's see how long it takes. There goes his priest. Let's see what his Iron Age times are. So he's got his siege workshop, and he's got a temple. He should be able.
Go to Iron Age.
There he goes. I think that he's going to Iron Age. There we go. So ta-da! There you go. There you have it, everyone. You've made an awesome tutorial AI. So I think that'll call it for right now.
I'm glad that you managed to find an AI that you could beat. That was good. It might not do so well against the official and Summer Studio ones or some of the other ones we made.
Yeah,
but it's nice that we got it to beat something already, right?
Yeah, it's always good, to have an AI that's a good tutorial AI for everyone. So, so I think I'm going to end the recording here. Toa, last thoughts?
Yeah, I think that that we should probably upload the speed editor, the speed utility. That should make the testing easy, because then you can test your AI really fast multiple times to make sure that it doesn't have bugs and things like that. To make sure you've not missed any items. Yeah.
I want to challenge all of those guys.
Best the Egyptian ones, but yeah. So I just that really. I guess just we'll try and add the speed editor as well, because that will help with the testing of AIs. But I recommend that when you do serious testing, like competitive stuff, you definitely have a low speed, not just because it's easier to follow and cast and watch, but also because the AI does tend to stand around either more and play less well and have worse age times when it's on faster speed. But it's a good way to test to make sure that it's at least building stuff and researching stuff and not broken and doing what it's supposed to, right? So if you want to do a quick test, do it as fast as possible. But if you want to see what the full potential of your AI is at, then have it on, somewhere between 1.0, although no one really plays that slow, and 6.0 or something. And we tend to choose 4.0, don't we?
And I don't know if this is actually the best, pattern. That, as you can see, I don't think that it built everything to the pattern of the city file. But
I think that when it can't, it might be some of the Anyplace ones, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So, anyways, other than that, I'm going to end the tutorial here, and hopefully this kind of gave you an overview of how AI files work. So
they're fun and easy.
Hopefully we'll see you guys inside the competition. Okay.
Yeah, and it won't just be us. Otherwise, we'll be taking the crowns, won't we? Eventually, when the immortals stop winning.
You don't want Thor and me taking the crowns, and we want you out there, challenging us. All right.
That's everything, I think.
Okay, cool. So, thanks everyone. Okay, bye.